Okay, welcome to the final video tutorial here in the independent contractor versus employee issue. And in this tutorial, what we'll be discussing is how to set things up properly. So if you do have contractors and you've gone through the other tutorials and determined, well, yes, Bill here really is a contractor. Well, what we'll be discussing in this tutorial is how to set things up properly so that you don't run into any of the issues and the problems that we've gone over in some of the previous tutorials. Now, the first thing you need to realize is there are no guarantees. And what I mean by this is just because you follow whatever I tell you here in these video tutorials, there's no guarantee that, it's not going to give you a get out of jail free card, so to speak. There are always issues in this realm. Different court cases come out and the CRA uses different policies to administer. What I can guarantee you is that if you do go through this setup, and if you do follow all the rules and everything that for all of these options that I've developed here for you, then you will be a little bit safer. At least you'll have a case, and if the CRA does assess you, then you might find yourself in court, and these are things that the courts have found to be in the favor of the contractors or the businesses that have hired contractors. So let's start going through some of these now. A contract is a must, okay? So as the name implies, an independent contractor, a subcontractor, or a contractor, the word contract is very prevalent in all those names. So that being said, a contract is a must, okay? A contract doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, it could be just a one-page understanding or one-page agreement between you and your contractor that specifies all the intentions of the work that's to be done. Maybe show start date and end date for the work to be done, what needs to be done, state that the contractor or the person is responsible for the tax, and that will be one of the big determining factors that a court would look at should you ever have to justify a contractor in front of a judge. So remember, contract is a must. Call up your lawyer, have your lawyer draw up a contract. It's probably the best thing that you can do in these types of situations, and don't overlook this step. Now, that being said, number two is a very important aspect as well. Have an understanding with your contractor or the person that's working for you. Make sure they know what they're signing. Sit down with them and say, okay, listen, you're a contractor. You should have your own business. I'm not going to be withholding any tax from you, so you should be paying your own tax. You're going to have to be paying your own CPP as part of your taxes. I will not be remitting any premiums to the employment insurance, so you won't be able to collect employment insurance. Have this discussion with the person so that they know what they're signing. Have them know that they're responsible for remitting their tax. If you're paying them $1,000 a week, then that $1,000 is before tax. They have to file their own taxes and pay their own taxes. Also discuss with them the consequences of what can happen. So go through the video tutorial on the dangers and pitfalls that I've set up above this tutorial on my website. Go through that and explain what could happen with the T4s being assessed and the EI and the CPP and so forth. So have that understanding. It's very, very important. Now, because they're subcontractors or independent contractors, have them register a business. Make sure they have a business. So they can do this simply by paying $60 or $80 for registering a business with the province, register with the Canada Revenue Agency for a business number, and if their total revenues are over that $30,000 threshold for GST, HST, make sure they have a GST, HST number. If you have a contractor or somebody working for you that you're paying, you end up paying them $60,000, if you're not paying the HST to them, you're in trouble because the threshold is $30,000. If the person isn't collecting HST on your behalf and doesn't have an HST number, you know for a fact that somebody's going to get caught because they should be registered for the HST. So make sure that they are a trade name or a business name. They've registered with the Canada Revenue Agency for a business number and an HST number. Now, the best thing to do is incorporation, and I can tell you from experience, this is the best bet because really, at the time of recording this video, the CRA really isn't out to assess companies that have registered their business as a corporation. So for example, if you have a contractor and you're paying Bill Smith, well, you could be in some problems because you're paying somebody as as an independent person, as a person. If they're, Bill Smith Consulting because they have a trade name, or, BS Consulting, then of course, you are a little bit safer because they've actually registered a trade name. Now, if they have a corporation, so if it's Bill Smith Consulting Limited, or, whatever, BS Consulting Corporation, if they've registered that corporation, if they've registered with the business number with the CRA, and they have their GST, HST numbers, I can tell you from experience, you are going to have a lot less problems with the CRA. The CRA can typically go through your ledger and your checks, and if you're paying another corporation, and of course, you have invoices and everything to support it, at the current time, they're not really looking at that, and they're not really looking to assess corporations as independent contractors. And they really can't, because it's a corporation, it's a separate legal entity, a whole bunch of other legal issues that come into play here. But all you need to know for now is that incorporation is the best. All right. So if you have a contractor, whether they're an individual, whether they're a trade name or just a business name, or whether they're incorporated, make sure they're giving you an invoice. So treat it like any other business invoice. Put it into your system, pay it by check, paid by. Make sure they're giving you an invoice though, because if you're just giving them checks with no substantiation for that, you could run into some problems on a CRA audit. Do not put subcontractors on the company's benefit plan. There's a lot of cases here where business owners they've just shot themselves in the foot. If somebody else is a business owner, or if they're an independent contractor, then they shouldn't be on the company's benefit plan. They're not employees. Benefit plans are only for employees. So, they can't have their cake and eat it too. If, they want that extra benefit, then you're just going to have to pay them a higher fee. Do not put subcontractors, independent contractors on the company's benefit plan. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You don't put, your suppliers on your company benefit plan. You don't put Bell Canada or TELUS on your company benefit plan. Same rule applies for these companies. They're treated the same exact way. Don't do it. You're going to get in trouble. And another thing, don't pay bonuses to contractors unless they're part of the contract. Okay, so employees get bonuses at the end of the year, not contractors. I doubt very much that if you had a fantastic year, you're not going to call up Rogers, your cell phone provider, and say, hey, Rogers, I had a great year. I'm going to be giving you a bonus this year. Doesn't happen, and it shouldn't happen for contractors. Now, if it's part of the contract because, maybe they've completed a particular job ahead of schedule, and if they do that, if they meet these criteria, then you can pay them a bonus on the contract. That's totally different. But don't say, hey, I had a great year this year, here's a bonus to you, because employees get paid bonuses and not contractors. So those are some of the issues and some of the, the areas that you should be looking out for in terms of setting things up properly. Make sure that you speak to your accountant and your lawyer if you do have a number of contractors that you want to pay as independent contractors and go that route. Follow these steps. Ask them about these particular items that we've discussed, and I can't guarantee that it'll be foolproof, but you are at least taking a step in the right direction in avoiding any sort of CRA audits and WSIB audits and reassessments. So that covers it for this tutorial, and hope to see you in another tutorial.